running backs continue to dominate in fantasy this season. So who do you start and who do you sit? Let's talk about every matchup that matters for week 10. Keep in mind, you got 4 teams that will be off, and that's going to be the Browns, Packers, Raiders, and Seahawks. Now let's talk must starts. You should be good if you have Derrick Henry, Bijan Robinson, Alvin Kamara, Breece Hall, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Joe Mixon, Devon Achane, Kyron Williams, and Jonathan Taylor. I know you're ready to set those lineups for week 10, but first, make sure you get your NFL Pick'em set on Underdog. This week, if you sign up for the first time on Underdog, you're getting a freebie, Lamar Jackson just getting 1 yard. That's right, it's the new customer special for anybody who hasn't tried Underdog yet. All you have to do is sign up and use code ENDGAME at checkout. You get that free pick and you get a deposit match all the way up to $1,000 worth of bonus cash. Now, in that Thursday night showdown between the Bengals and the Ravens, yeah, King Henry is still looking like a league winner, no surprise there. We might have a sneaky league winner, potentially in Chase Brown for Cincinnati. Look, Zach Moss is out indefinitely with a neck injury. Who knows if he's coming back? Chase Brown got all the touches last week. How good do you feel about him, though, in Baltimore?
I want to feel really good about Chase Brown. I want to put him in the strong start tier this week, but it is the Ravens. This is a very tough run defense here. But he's probably going to get all the touches. He will catch some passes. He always has a chance to score a touchdown in this offense. So because the matchup is so tough this week, I'm only going to put him in the solid start tier, but probably one of my favorite solid starts.
Also, you guys know we put these out early in the week. If the Bengals decide to add somebody at running back through the trade deadline, maybe somebody who actually could compete for touches, that might affect Chase Brown long term. But right now, he might actually be close to a workhorse in that backfield. It's a good offense. It's just not a great matchup. So agree. Gonna say he's a high-end solid start. And on the flip side, I mean, Derrick Henry's pretty much a workhorse, but Justice Hill does mix in sometimes situationally. Do you think that happens this week?
Probably not. I mean, he'll always catch a few passes, could have a decent run, but you're really hoping for a game where the Ravens are just getting blown out and having to drop back 40, 50 times. I don't think that's going to be the case this week. Justice Hill, desperation at best, probably more of an avoid.
Yeah, I think you can avoid. Don't feel like this game is going to be a blowout either way. It feels like they were trying to get Justice Hill a touchdown, near the goal line last week, which was a blowout win against Denver. I don't think it happens this week. You can just sit him. And early Sunday morning, the people of Germany are going to be treated to the Giants taking on the Panthers. All right, well, at least there's some good running backs in this game. Tyrone Tracy, I did not go off in week 9, but man, he could definitely do it in week 10.
Exactly. This is too good of a matchup to ignore the Panthers. He's still got 16 carries. He only had 1 catch. We'd like to see that number go up a little bit, but it's the Panthers this week. He's the true workhorse running back in this offense. It kind of feels weird to put Chase Brown in the solid start, and I'm going to put Tracy in the strong start this week, but man, the matchup is so good for him, I think I got to do it.
I might mess around and say Tyrone Tracy is a must start. It's the Panthers. This is legit the worst run defense, although the Saints are catching up in that category, but still. Tracy has been good. This matchup is great. He's a very strong start. And just when we were ready to bury Chuba Hubbard, he came back strong, but then again, it was against the Saints. Where do you feel he belongs this week?
I think Chuba's probably going to always live in that solid start tier unless he has like those really good matchups or a really bad matchup. This isn't either of those. It's a good matchup, but not a great matchup. He gets the volume. He could score. Solid start this week.
Agreed. Can't feel as good about him based on matchup as last week. But again, he's still going to get most of the touches unless somehow the rookie works into the mix already. But I'm not going to bet on that happening. So speaking of Jonathan Brooks, this is it. The Panthers got to do something with him. If he is activated, assuming he's going to actually play this season, do you think they roll him out enough to be fantasy relevant right away?
No chance. You can't start this guy. Coming off ACL, a rookie, has barely practiced, hasn't played a snap. No way. Definite avoid.
Definite avoid. He would be worth stashing, but again, I've said it from the beginning. If he has fantasy value this season, it's going to be beyond week 12. Let's see if that even happens, but this week, no chance you should start him. The Patriots are going to take on the Bears. This is another matchup between teams that aren't actually good, but somehow have 2 good running backs for fantasy. Go figure. So let's talk Ramondre Stevenson. 2 touchdowns last week, one of them pretty much a miracle. What can he do against the Bears here?
Bears, not a terrible run defense, but also not a sieve. Ramondre hasn't really been looking good running the football lately, but he's scoring touchdowns. He's getting the volume. Don't feel great about him this week, but I'm going to keep him in the solid start tier.
Yeah, I think that's right. The volume is there, and that's what we look for first. But I really think the problem here is that offensive line is just horrible. Injuries have been a big part of it. So interesting that Drake May was the leading rusher, like by far, on this team. And that kind of worries me as well. But Stevenson obviously can score touchdowns. He'll get receptions. So he's still solid in a PPR league. And DeAndre Swift. All right, he didn't boom last week because the Bears just got buried by the Cardinals. Go figure. What about this matchup against the Patriots, though?
I like this matchup. Patriots, not a good run defense. Swift's still the workhorse running back here for the most part, at least as far as workhorses go in this day and age. I think this is a good bounce back spot for Swift. Again, I'm going to put him in the solid tier, but between like him and Ramondre, I prefer Swift.
I feel like this might have been the week that I should have picked Swift to go off because the Patriots do give up a lot of yards to running backs, but still, this Bears offense, very questionable. I'll say he's a solid start. Now, hopefully this video helps you with all your start-sit decisions, but if you still have questions for start-sit, waiver wire trades, or anything fantasy football related, use the Draft Lane app because that connects you directly with Chris and myself for all your fantasy football needs. Download it for free right now. All right, now it's time to talk CMC. The 49ers, off the bye, are going to take on Tampa on the road. Do we see Christian McCaffrey back? And if so, what do you do? Must start?
Well, obviously we didn't put him in the no doubt must starts because there is some risk here. Like, is he going to play his full complement of snaps? Are they going to ease him in coming off the injury? But that being said, if Christian McCaffrey plays this week, which it sounds like he's going to play, he is going to be the strongest of the strong starts.
You know, on the one hand, I want to say, well, let's wait and see what they say about him. But then I realize it doesn't matter what these coaches say. You can't trust them, can't take their word for it. And we know Shanahan has pushed CMC a lot more than we ever expected him to. And going back to last year, yeah, if he's playing, even if Jordan Mason mixes in, come on, it's CMC. You're starting him. Now, a lot of people asking, do I even hold on to Jordan Mason? The answer is yes, but are you playing Jordan Mason?
Only if Christian McCaffrey is, for some reason, ruled out, like they said, okay, he's not ready, then yes, I think in that case, Jordan Mason is a strong start, but if Christian McCaffrey plays, I'm avoiding Jordan Mason.
Yeah, I really think all this talk about some sort of a committee, timeshare, whatever, I mean, come on, it's Christian McCaffrey. I don't think Mason is going to get enough run to be fantasy relevant, so agree, CMC is playing, even if they say, well, limited snaps, nah, I'm sitting Mason, I'm just stashing him. Now in Tampa Bay, this does look like a timeshare. You got Rachaad White as the pass catching back, you got Bucky Irving as, I guess, more of the early down back. You feeling either of them in this matchup? Let's start with Rachaad White.
Yeah, I think this is the kind of matchup where I like Rachaad White. I don't love Rachaad White, but it feels like a game, if CMC is active, Debo healthy, the 49ers could definitely put up a lot of points against the Buccaneers, and that is a good thing for Rachaad White. So I'm going to put him in the flex tier this week because you never can trust him, but he's going to be towards the higher end of the flex tier.
Yeah, even in a couple of bad matchups the last couple of weeks, scoring a touchdown, getting involved as a receiver, he always has that floor, but it's mostly just a floor this week, so I'll say he's a flex option. So where does that leave Bucky Irving?
I'm going to also say a flex option because, he does get enough touches. He still catches some passes. He could score, but he's going to be more towards the lower end of the flex option because, again, I feel like this is a game where they might need to throw the ball a lot.
Kind of a desperation flex. The Niners defense hasn't been shutting opponents down, but they're definitely holding running backs under 4 yards a carry. Irving is just, again, a guy if you really need somebody, you could roll him out there. Broncos taking on the Chiefs in Arrowhead this week. Start with Javonte Williams. Seems like he's starting to fade a little bit.
Yes, it does, and now he gets this brutal matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs. Javonte Williams is going to be an avoid for me.
Yeah, look, it took a lot for me to kind of be in on Javonte, and that was really only because they happened to play the Panthers a couple weeks ago. If he couldn't put up big numbers then, I don't think he's going to do it in Kansas City. I'm avoiding him. And here's the other thing. We got All of a sudden, Coach Sean Payton saying that Audric Estime, the rookie out of Notre Dame, is going to get more involved. But does that mean we should be looking at Estime?
No, what does more involved mean? Like a couple more touches? Who knows? You can't trust this. I'm avoiding Estime.
Exactly. From Lennon and Javante, it's not like they're going to give Estime far more carries, and even so, it doesn't matter against this defense. So, speculative pickup, maybe if you got room, but don't start him. Kareem Hunt continues to dominate touches in the KC backfield. How do you feel about him against this Denver D?
Can't feel too good. Denver's been pretty good against the run, but he can always score. And he gets the touches here. I think this week I'm only going to put him as a flex start.
Well, I will say he's probably at least a solid start based on the amount of touches he gets, a touchdown upside. I mean, if you need him, then there's really no reason not to start him. It's just crazy that even with productive as he's been, there's just so many running backs that are better than him. Next, we got the Bills at the Colts. James Cook did not go off last week. Ray Davis still in a little bit of his thunder. Are you worried about Cook, or is this matchup too good to resist?
I'm not worried about Cook. This matchup, I'm not going to say it's too good to resist. It's not like the Panthers or the Saints, but it's still a good matchup. Not worried about, okay, Ray Davis had a one long catch, and now everybody's like all freaking out about Ray Davis. James Cook, still a strong start.
Yeah, for what it's worth, it was kind of tilting to me. Saw Cook did get a couple of goal line carries, didn't cash in, and then there was that crazy flip to the backup tight ends. Yeah. Anyways, James Cook always has touchdown upside. This is a good spot. I think he's still a strong start. You know, people are going to ask, so let's go ahead. Ray Davis, worth a start?
I mean, you want to chase what he did last week. You do you. I'm not gambling on that again. He's an avoid.
I will say, if you're stashing, especially if you have Cook, yeah, keep him as a handcuff, but you don't have to start him. The Steelers, coming off of their bye week, are going to go to Washington, take on the Commanders. All right, let's start with Najee Harris. Before the bye, he had been rolling. Does he keep it going here?
I think so. The Commanders, yes, his defense has gotten better, but the run defense is still not their strength at the moment. And Najee, 3 straight 100-yard rushing games. He doesn't have the highest ceiling because touchdowns, but he gives you a very high floor. I think he's a solid start this week.
Yeah, it's interesting to note that even though they don't give up a ton of points to running backs in general, they give up the most yards per carry out of any team, 5.23 to running backs. So this is somewhat of a soft run defense. It's just they've been in command. Other teams have not been able to run the ball against them. So I think Najee Harris is still a strong start, maybe a little bit lower end of that strong tier. But I will tell you this, I mean, he's been piling up yardage, and I just told you the Commanders give up yardage at a good clip. So why not take the pick for Najee Harris right now, an underdog, higher than 61.5 yards. That's something he should be able to do. And so I'm taking that pick. If you haven't tried underdog yet, you already get that free pick as a new customer. Lamar Jackson getting 1 yard. You can combine it with this Najee pick or any other pick you like, but make sure you use code ENDGAME before you check out to take advantage of the free picks. So does this matchup entice you to possibly flex a guy like Jaylen Warren?
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. You can flex him if you need to. Not one of my favorite flexes this week, but you could do worse.
It's getting a little deeper here. Again, the yards per carry only matter if you're getting enough carries, and Jaylen Warren really isn't this year. I mean, barely. He's only hit double-digit rushing attempts once on the season, and he's not really doing a lot as a receiver. I mean, really getting into the low end of the flex tier, but I guess we got to keep him there. The Commanders were without Brian Robinson Jr. last week. He's been optimistic about this week, but still, let's just say if he plays, do you play him?
I don't think he's like a no doubt, yeah, you play him if you got him. Remember, is dealing with a hamstring injury here. We don't know if he's 100%, and dealing with the Steelers' run defense. I'm going to drop him a little bit this week, but not too far. I'm going to keep him in the solid start tier, but he's like a nervous solid start.
Yeah, I agree with you, Robinson. I feel like he's at least solid still. I think he will be good enough to go. And yeah, the Steelers, sure, they were gashed by Tyrant Tracy a couple weeks ago, but these games happen once in a while. It's still a tough run defense. He always has TD upside though, so let's leave him in the solid tier. Now, Austin Eckler did have a nice game without B-Rob last week. Can he do it if he's back with B-Rob this week?
Well, if Brian Robinson plays, that certainly puts a cap on Eckler's ceiling here. But I think either way, with or without Brian Robinson, I don't think I could put Eckler as anything more than a flex start.
Agree. Eckler much more appealing when he's getting more touches, so I'm assuming Brian Robinson does play, and even so, Eckler probably not more than a flex anyways. Vikings taking on the Jaguars this week. All right, Aaron Jones also coming off a slightly disappointing fantasy outcome. Does he get better against the Jags?
I mean, he should. It's another very good matchup here. I will say Cam Akers got quite a bit of run last week. That was a little bit surprising, but Aaron Jones is good. He catches passes. One of these days, he's going to score a touchdown again. I still have Aaron Jones as a strong start.
Yeah, it's the Jaguars. It's still a great spot. It's not always going to work out the way we think it is, but I think you got Aaron Jones. It's going to be pretty hard to sit him, so he's got to be a strong start. And now it's funny how quickly these guys fall. Tank Bigsby, everybody was all over him a couple weeks ago, and now you're wondering if you really want to start him. And this is Minnesota's run defense. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not wondering if I want to start him or not. I know I don't want to start him this week. Etienne came back and actually kind of sort of took over the lead role in the first half, and then it was Bigsby in the second half. Like you said, it's Minnesota, one of the best run defenses. I'm avoiding Tank Bigsby.
I think he'll get better. Like, he was also limited in practice. I got to think a guy getting some touches is at least flex worthy compared to some of the other flex options we have, but that's it. And again, it's only if you really don't have a better choice. I can't go there for Travis Etienne. I don't know. I just think this is a season. I'm going to be sorry if I drafted him, which I didn't, and I'm going to avoid him altogether.
Yeah, I'm avoiding him as well this week.
The Falcons-Saints matchup has two no doubt must-start running backs, but let's talk Tyler Algier. I mean, look, he gets the Saints' run defense. Does this make him worth a flex?
Yeah, like what I said last week, of the backup handcuff / type running backs, he's the one I like the most because it's the Saints and he could always score like he did last week. So a risky flex.
The Cowboys were, at least in their latest loss, able to kind of keep it close. You got to wonder if the Saints are even going to be able to do that. So yeah, I think Algier becomes interesting as a flex if you need him. Titans taking on the Chargers. This will be an interesting one. So Tony Pollard did play last week and wound up having one of his best games of the season, 128 yards on the ground. Now he gets to go on the road to the West Coast against one of the top run defenses in the Chargers. What do you do with Pollard?
I still have to keep him in the solid start tier. I think a lot of weeks he's probably going to become a strong start for me because, man, he has been really good even despite playing in this terrible Titans offense. But because the matchup is so tough this week against the Chargers, I'm only going to say a solid start.
I'm actually going to get a little bit higher on Pollard. I'll say he's got to be a strong start. He's still owning that backfield. The Chargers early in the season were the top run defense, one of the top. They've gone down now to middle of the pack in terms of fantasy points allowed to running backs. And if you look just over the last 4 weeks, they're 17th. And so it's still a good run defense, but not a great one. So I think if you got Pollard, it's going to be really hard to sit him. And then J.K. Dobbins, just more proof that can't doubt running backs in 2024, right? Not a great spot for him, and yet he's smashed. I mean, do you just have to keep Dobbins in your lineup?
He's going to stay in the solid start tier for me. You don't want to just overreact to 1 week. Remember the 2 weeks prior, he was just kind of okay, but he gets the volume, he catches enough passes, he can always score. So even in this tough matchup, he's got to still be a solid start.
Solid is fair. And it's not like he was hyper efficient, didn't break any really long runs. It's volume, but hey, volume is what you're looking for. So Dobbins is getting it. He's a very solid start. Jets going to take on the Cardinals this week. Look, Breece Hall might be worrying you a little bit, but you still have to start him. What about James Conner? How can you not start him?
Yeah, I know what you mean, but man, what a frustrating week for James Conner. Trey Benson, Amari DeMarcado, and Trey McBride all got rushing touchdowns, but James Conner couldn't get one. That was very tilting, but he gets most of the work here. He's looked good. It is the Jets' run defense, which not elite anymore, but I think I can only put Conner in the solid start tier, but very high-end solid start.
Interesting in the sense that the backup running backs behind him looked really good, but he still is technically the workhorse there. I'm not worried about him losing carries. This matchup here, it's not really going to scare me away. The Jets defense, like you said, has been so good but not great against the run. So I think if I got Conner, I think he's still a strong start. Eagles at the Cowboys. All right, Dallas backfield. Now it looks like it's going to be Rico Dowdle with maybe a sprinkle of Dalvin Cook. I did say I think Rico Dowdle, it's finally time to invest in him. Pick him up. He's available on waiver wires. Are you going to put him in your lineup?
I think you could roll him out as a flex. I don't feel great about this. Eagles' run defense is good. Now we got Cooper Rush. We don't know what this Cowboys offense is going to look like, but he's going to get the work here. He's by far the best running back in this backfield. He's worth a flex.
Definitely not a guy I'm going to force into my lineup. He is going to have to get a lot of touches. You got to worry about the game script here. I like his involvement as a receiver, so I'll say in a PPR league, I feel like he's a solid start. In half or non-PPR, he actually goes down a notch to me for like a flex. Now I know the answer, but gotta ask anyways. Dalvin Cook?
Dalvin Cook might be my least favorite running back that we've talked about in this entire show so far. Easy avoid.
Very easy avoid. Lions taking on the Texans in Houston this week. Jahmyr Gibbs, you think you just got to start him at this point. What about David Montgomery? Still solid, I assume?
That's where I'm going to put him. Solid. We're starting to see kind of like, that regression hit where when this guy isn't scoring or throwing for a touchdown every week, you're not getting a whole lot. But at the same time, he's not killing you. He's still getting the touches. He could always score. He's in this Lions offense. Solid start this week.
Yeah, in certain matchups, he will be a strong start, but it's a road game. Texans are a decent run defense, so solid, but very solid. Then Monday night, it's going to be the Dolphins taking on the Rams. You got Achane, you got Kyron, you're good. What about Raheem? Put the ball on the ground, Mostert.
He did, but at least, Mike McDaniel not one of those guys who benches you for that. Raheem Mostert is what he is pretty much every single week for me. He's touchdown or bust. If you need that this week, go for it, but I'd rather avoid him.
I wish he would bench him, honestly, so that we stop losing fumbles, but I will say he's at least a flex option because he can rip off a big run. He does get touchdowns because he gets run near the goal line, so you can flex him if you need him. And if you need help at wide receiver, quarterback, tight end, any other position, or just want more information to help win in Week 10, we got it all here in this week's playlist.